Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Midweek Minutes. It is a beautiful spring week here in Northern Virginia. It's the kind of week that makes you say, if you don't like the weather in the spring in Northern Virginia, just wait an hour and it'll change. But I hope you're enjoying it nonetheless. There's a lot of exciting things happening around Fairfax Baptist Church, and I've got some neat news and an individual that I want to introduce to you in just a few moments. But before we get to our guest, I want to share with you just a couple of reminders of some key dates coming up, as well as to get a little glimpse, a little taste of some things that'll be on the horizon for the summer. But first of all, remind you, as I did last week, that on Sunday, May 16th, we will have our quarterly business meeting. It'll be an information session. It'll meet immediately following the worship service that morning. We will remain in the sanctuary, and yes, it will be live streamed. We will wrap up the worship service. We will bring that streaming session to an end, and a few minutes later, after we get set up, we'll begin streaming once again, and we will share with those of you who are interested in connecting with us in that manner all of the connection information and how to stream and how to actually engage with that moment. But it's an important time as we hear some reports. I shared with you last week the end of quarter report, and you'll have a more up-to-the-date financial report. You're also going to hear some things from our committee leaders, particularly some things coming up on the near horizon, and be looking for your midweek minutes and some midweek emails. You'll be getting some information about 10 days prior, probably the second week or so of May. Information, the updated financials, and some bullet point type of the reports that you're going to be hearing on Sunday morning, the 16th. So circle that on your calendar. It'll be a great opportunity, maybe a great target date if you've yet to begin regathering. It is tight. There have been Sundays we have hit our COVID capacity, but we certainly can make room for you. We want you to be a part of that. Not only the worship, but that time of discussion and reports and hearing what is on the horizon. Of course, the next month we have our more annual business meeting where we create a new budget, as well as elect our officers and church leader roster for the next church year. That's coming up at the end of June. You'll be hearing more about that in the days to come. Now, before I introduce to you the guests that I have with me, I wanted to just give you a little highlight of some things that are coming on the relatively near horizon, particularly as it relates to outreach and ministry to our community this summer. We've been looking for ways to go outside of the box, to work within COVID protocols, but to find ways to maximize our touch, our real touch with our community. And so we've got some things. I'm not going to give you specific dates because all of those things are still in flux and in the works, but some things that are on the horizon between now in the middle part of September. We're looking at a number of events and ways to engage with our community that create not only a fellowship for our church family, but also create a real personal contact with our neighbors. And so some of the things on the horizon are these. We are looking for ways to continue to do some outdoor worship services, particularly actually going to the old town square. That's right. In the city of Fairfax, congregations can reserve the Old Town Square, just right in the heart of Old Town, for a time of worship. That could be a Sunday morning at 11, which is kind of what we're thinking. But I've seen congregations do it in the afternoon for kind of a little praise and worship type thing. I've seen regular church services either on holidays or just on an average Sunday. And it's a great way for us to be outside, to do some of the things like we've done in some of our outdoor services of late, but also to do that in a very visible way, in a way that hopefully engages our community. So can't tell you where to circle on your calendar. So just highlight the whole summer and pay attention to those things that are around the corner. Some of the other outreach, more specifically, we're looking at doing some movie nights. Actually, a couple of them at least, on a Friday night in the summer, one perhaps being in the courtyard playground area, an opportunity that will be particularly targeted for families with younger children. They can actually play in the playground and watch the movie, and we'll have all of the trimmings, the popcorn, all of that movie kind of night experience. And then we're thinking even after Labor Day, maybe about a week or so in the mid part of September, it's still warm in the evening, still doesn't get real dark real fast. to have a drive-in movie experience, maybe with some classic cars and setting up something in the parking lot, be really, really kind of cool. So we're looking at doing that in the days to come. And I want you to just keep your ear to the ground on those things. Also, we are looking at, we couldn't do it last year, doing a vacation Bible school, but this year it's going to be more of a music camp, working in conjunction with neighborhood as well as schools to provide a resource not only for Bible lessons and crafts and some engagement, but also some music. And it's a really unique way of perhaps using music and that interest and to capture kind of the interest of the neighborhood and certainly the children themselves. Looking, excuse me, for that, most likely the latter part of July. Again, the dates will be finalized literally in the coming weeks. And certainly by the time we have that business meeting, most of those dates will be pretty well solidified. We're also looking at doing some back to school ministry, much like we did and partnered with schools in our community in the holiday season for families in need. We want to do a school supply drive that will be much along the same level as we have done with the shoe boxes at Christmas in the past, where we, in the coming weeks, and you're going to be given instructions and some guidelines and encouragements literally in the next few weeks, as those back to school sales will arrive nearly before school gets out. And you can begin to shop and to collect those things, pencils, pens, bags, notebooks, all those types of things. We'll give you that list, and we'll be collecting those over the summer. And then mid-August, actually partner with the schools that we've built a relationship with and either have a distribution event, or even if it's just making it available to the schools and to the classrooms to adopt at least some families in need or a classroom in need. Maybe we pick a classroom, whatever is going to work best. And so we're looking at perhaps some middle school and elementary schools with that. And as always, we look for opportunities to minister. And if it's not an event type thing, at least a way to connect with families and to connect with our partners who are leading and caring for our children in our community. Those are just some of the things that are on the horizon. Again, no dates and no specifics, but those are the kinds of things that you're going to be hearing about with greater specificity in our information business session on May 16th. So know that there are some things that are on the horizon. Last summer, we were kind of in shutdown summer, and so many of our outreach activities that have been a hope and just part of a staple of our church life for decades, we weren't able really to do. But this year, we're trying to find, even within some of those limitations, find ways to work within them and around them in a way, and maybe you can be a part of that. So just highlight those ideas in your heart, and then you can highlight them on the calendar once those things are finalized, and we'll keep you posted. Well, before I introduce the guest that I have with me in just a few moments, I want to circle back around to kind of where we were last year. I gave a rundown a little bit of our financial reality last week, and I walked you through one of the recent financial documents and so forth, just letting you know how we've weathered COVID and where we are financially. Again, you'll be hearing even more up-to-date details as our business meeting approaches. But I wanted just to bring everybody up to speed, get everybody on the same level playing field when it came to financial matters and where we stand. One of the things I want to do is to let you know where we stand with our staff development. A little over a year ago, actually, it'll be 2 years in July, our worship leader, our choir director, minister of music person who had been here for decades, Charlotte Bayless, retired. And as the norm, in looking at moving beyond and moving on from someone who had provided such long-term and very beautiful and special leadership, very dear to us, was not a quick turnaround. And we found very quickly in the fall an interim. It was Trish Mannarin. She was with us for a number of months, and that was an intentional interim with a beginning and an end. We knew that she had some obligations after the turn of the year into 2020, and we knew that during that process, we would be looking at the longer term picture. Well, we did. We never saw any fruit from that, not because it wasn't for lack of search, but because of COVID. Now, let me bring you up to speed on that. About a year plus ago, maybe certainly 12, 14 months ago or so, as Trisha's time faded out and Becky so admirably stepped in to provide kind of that mini in-house interim after the holiday season as we were building up towards Easter. Her skills and her abilities just worked wonderful for what we were doing, just kind of in that hiatus as we were bringing home and zeroing in on the reality and the individuals and potential candidates for the next level of worship and music leadership. And then COVID happened. In fact, we were meeting as a personnel committee, and I was meeting with individuals, and just even the week that we were having to make phone calls and change things, and suddenly we hit this new reality. And with that new reality, if you recall, 12 months ago, we were uncertain. I wouldn't want to say we were afraid, because we're not supposed to fear, but we were uncertain, and wisely so. We paused a moment. We were uncertain because we had just danced a jig, if you recall. In late February, the school was coming. That was going to be a great benefit, not only in potential building of relationships with young families, but certainly a financial benefit as they partnered in our facility. All of that was put on hold. And there was a time that we wondered if that was even going to become reality. All the while, our other partner congregation, Spanish language congregation that meets on Saturdays, came to us, and COVID hit them very hard, not only health-wise, but financially. And they had to go on a full hiatus. And so our financial partners for facility stewardship, all of that was put on pause. And then we had that great uncertainty, if you recall. Yes, your faithfulness, and I shared that last week, your faithfulness allowed us to continue, and we were good stewards. We tightened our belt, we watched our spending. And your faithfulness, we've seen it through and to much more comfortable stability. Are we there yet? Do we need to continue to be faithful? Certainly so. But I just want to let you know that 12 months ago, and 8 months ago, and 9 months ago, 10 months ago, we were in a situation that it would not be very prudent for us to have continued a conversation with any potential candidate beyond interim, particularly not only as we had that uncertainty with finance. Even though we knew God was going to see us through, what was God teaching us? And as we paused and just kind of stood still a moment financially, we also realized we were very limited in some of the things we can do, particularly in our gatherings with worship. And so to continue that process, to bring in somebody who would be that full-time or rather permanent, not full-time, it's a part-time position, but to be that permanent, moving on to the next phase after Charlotte's retirement, that wasn't the thing to do. And we were very limited in what we can do in worship. And so we didn't think it very prudent, although we kept in connection with individuals with whom we had reached out to earlier in the year. And as the months turned into the better part of a year, we recognized that as we saw the light at the end of the tunnel, we needed to begin that process. During that time, if you recall, the COVID months, the church in the box months, we were blessed with a wonderful gift with Becky's leadership in music, her abilities, not only vocally, but of course on the piano, and the resources at her disposal, the way she helped coordinate those who would work with us in Church in the Box, both in the pre-record days and as we began live streaming again, and then as we began to regather. With those limitations, what Becky was able to do was to continue that interim. She became that interim. And then with just about a 10-day notice, quite frankly, Becky was gone. And we did not see that coming. And 2 weeks before Easter was her last Sunday. And Wednesday of the week before was when we received that notice. And so we began to quickly scramble. Not only were we losing that person, but we were losing the key instrumentalist for our Sunday worship, and the person who had the maturity and the skill level and the experience to help coordinate what we were doing, and even to help us maybe expand a little bit, had been the conversation in the weeks prior. However, with her departure, it brought to us not only the reality of still looking, and even though we had begun to dust off and relook at where we were going with our music leadership, we suddenly, like that, became thrust into the reality of a true urgent need when it came to music and worship. And for those of you who've helped bridge that gap and plug those holes, you've done a wonderful job. But each of you who've been a part of that, as we thank you and we give you those accolades for all that you have done, we needed that person that could be that go-to person, that person on the piano, that person that was that coordinator, even with Church in the Box. And suddenly we lost that with just literally moments' notice. And so we began very quickly to reach out to those who might be able to fill the gap, get us through Easter, and to respond to that immediate need. And so that's where we are, and that's where we are today. Well, our personnel committee has found an individual who we have asked to be that interim, to help us not necessarily go back to square one, but to allow us to reinvigorate that search for the longer term issue, and an individual who's going to be able to meet the immediate need of not only instrumentalists, but worship coordinator, and working with us as we seek to move beyond Church in the Box. And so in an interim capacity, we've asked Andrew Lewis. Andrew has been a part of our worship leadership in recent days, including being a guest on Palm Sunday, that was March 28th, and our worship leader for Easter Sunday morning. Many of you had a chance to meet him then. We've asked Andrew to come in. He's working within our personnel budget as it exists right now, to come in on an interim capacity. Now, before I introduce or reintroduce Andrew to you, let me just remind you of what that means. If that's an unfamiliar term or an unfamiliar concept, the interim person in a congregational leadership, be it in worship music or as a pastor, for example, that is a very quick, urgent, immediate fill of a vacancy. It allows the church to continue what they're doing and even to move ahead, but to do so with having that leadership and that worship guidance and so forth in place. When it comes to full-time or permanent type of ministry positions in our church, and it's true across Baptist life anyway, it's the congregation that makes that decision. You vote on calling a pastor. You will get a chance to vote on calling the next music person. But when it comes to interim for a pastor, it's usually the responsibility of the deacons, and that is the case here in our congregation. And it usually is the process in conjunction and partnership with the ministry staff, such as the pastor, the personnel's responsibility to fill that immediate vacancy. And even though it is a quick relative turnaround in filling that, that individual's vetted, that individual is interviewed to meet that immediate need. And so without encumbering the additional time related to bringing it to a church vote and a church-wide decision, the interim status allows us to begin immediately. Literally, this Sunday, Andrew will be joining with us. And in the coming months, as we go through the rest of the year, Andrew certainly is open to be a potential candidate for that longer term issue, but it allows us to move forward, to do what we need to do each week, and to have that leadership as we explore where God is taking us in our staff development and in our music ministry development for the months and the years to come. So it is not to circumvent the congregation. It is not to leave you out of a discussion in any way. It is to get somebody here yesterday. And that's par for the course. That's how that interim status works. It's got a very quick beginning. And it also has an understanding that there is an end, and it's usually 6 months, 9 months. And we've asked Andrew, will you commit through the end of the year? And during that time, and even early, not waiting to the end of the year, but during that time, our personnel will continue that process. Just to let you know that we were there a year ago. There was an individual that we were looking at and talking to, beginning that process of considering not just coming as an interim, but coming in a longer term capacity, knowing that we had Becky kind of as the in-house interim. Well, as COVID hit, and then suddenly as Becky departed, it brought us back, to the reality that there was this immediate need, and our personnel committee responded accordingly. And so Andrew Lewis will begin with us starting this Sunday. And we had a great conversation with him, with personnel. I've had a chance to get to know him really over this past year plus. He has visited with us on occasion. He and his wife, both pre-COVID, and he's been with us a couple of times even recently, both just to worship with us as well as to provide leadership. So we're excited to introduce to you Andrew, who is going to join with me right now. We'll see if we can get Andrew on the line, and just want to let you hear from him and his heart a little bit, kind of put the name and the face together if you've yet to do that. And so let's see if we can't get Andrew to join with us just now. And here he is with us. Thank you, Andrew Lewis, for being with us today. I know you're getting ready to head out of town for a couple of days. I want you to have a safe trip, but I wanted to have a chance for you to be introduced to our congregation, kind of. They had a chance to worship with you on the 28th on Palm Sunday. And of course, you provided some great leadership, and we're up front on that platform for quite a while on Easter Sunday as we worshiped outside. Again, on behalf of our church family, thank you for that. And thank you, too, for being willing to step in this interim capacity. Beginning this Sunday, we have been at an extended interim because of the COVID dynamic, as I've explained and reminded our congregation a few minutes ago. And one of the things that I really wanted to hear from you today, or give a chance for our congregation to hear, was a part of a conversation that you had with our personnel committee when we were discussing this issue. I hope you can recall that part of the conversation, but we were asking you, what do you see, even as an interim and that kind of thing? Where do you see the church, and then maybe even our church? So you've had a chance to visit with us on a few occasions, you and your wife Lynn, as well as to be with us in worship and be featured in leadership in a couple of times. What would you say that this opportunity, as we start thinking post-COVID pandemic and post-church in the box, whether expanding the box or changing the box or doing whatever to look forward in the days to come, where do you see a church, at least from what you know about us and have experienced so far, where do you see some of the potential and some of the neat possibilities? We asked you that question, and your answer just kind of wowed us. We thought, wow, what a great perspective. Can you come help us do that? So I'll kind of present that question to you again. Where do you see the church, and maybe even our church specifically, with the possibilities in the coming weeks and months and the rest of this, maybe uncertain, but still a lot of possibilities in the year?
Well, I think coming out of COVID, one of the exciting things that we have is, your church and a lot of churches have taken the opportunity to add a lot of technology, add things that they didn't have before. And I think that's an element in worship that we need to keep. And we need to make sure that we're looking forward, looking to the creativity, looking to the abilities of Fairfax Baptist Church as I'm there to help you, looking to add as much variety as we can, not go back to the way it was, not try and be somebody else, but be Fairfax Baptist Church. And I think it's just very important that we explore what that means, but also how we can make that happen for Fairfax Baptist.
Yeah, a lot of people, and we do that. I think clergy are just as bad, and maybe we lead the charge in it when we say, well, what's that church down the street doing? And look what they're doing. And that's kind of unfair to us, because God wants to do something unique in our lives and with our leadership skills and abilities and where he's planted us. And it's the same thing's true with the church. And that was important, just reminder that the answer doesn't come, we talk about church in a box, it doesn't come out of a box from some place you order. It really is integrating the gifts and the life and where the church is. And we were excited to hear you make that kind of connection with creating the unique Fairfax blend, if you will, thinking of it like a cup of coffee. There's something unique and different, and that's refreshing too. And so we're looking forward to that. You have a great, a long list of involvement, and I've attached to this video, the email that carries it out to our church family. Just kind of a summary of where you've been from North Carolina, the Midwest, and Indiana, and we've been in some of the similar places at different times, and so we can kind of relate on those things. But the timing of you and Lynn coming, particularly with her opportunity here in the greater DC area, and then the timing was real frustrating for us. I know it has been for you, just as you made the move and suddenly everything shut down. And we thought that, a year ago that, hey, this is the direction we need to go. And suddenly there was just this pause, and I count it a blessing that you have been able through that pause to come back towards the end of it. We hope toward the end, that you're providing something to get us off that pause moment and to reinvigorate worship. And I know our folks are looking forward to that. Our people at Fairfax, our members, have been very patient. And it can be frustrating doing with what we have to do, but I think it's been really helpful. Just even your insights that you've shared in our conversations and with personnel, and what you've shared today. Is you're going to be with us on Sunday and beyond. Is there anything else? And our folks will have a chance to get to meet you in the coming weeks. And again, many of them will be here on Sunday and watching. They've seen you before and had a chance to appreciate your leadership. Anything else you want to share? Any thoughts for if someone has an idea? How do they come to you and say, hey, would I do this, or can we do this? You're pretty open to that. How would they connect with you in that?
Or just connect with me by phone or by email, either one. Be glad to give those out. If you want to publish those, Joby, you can do that. And be glad to talk with people if you've got an idea. If you know someone that sings that I need to tap into, or someone that plays an instrument that would be willing to help us out in worship, either as a solo performer or as a part of a small ensemble, I'd be glad to work with them and figure out something that we could do and work out a schedule. Just looking to explore all of the talent that Fairfax Baptist has and utilize as much as I can of it.
Well, thank you for that willingness. So often in COVID, and it's just been the way we've had to do it. It's been limited in what we can do, what we've chosen to do for the protocols that were required and those suggested for best practices. And one of the ways that, if people have ideas of what they can offer and so forth, I'm glad you're open, and we certainly are, on behalf of the whole staff and the music and the worship preparation team. I'm part of that. We want to hear from you, and we're working through this together, and I appreciate your flexibility. We will certainly make your contact available. I'm not going to put it out here because I know you're getting ready to go out of town, and we will see you on Sunday. But the following week, we'll, in the midweek or an email, here's Andrew's contact and so forth. We'll be able to do that. And we look forward for the months to come. Well, Andrew, thank you. Any closing words? I know you got to get ready to head on.
Yeah, we are, but just looking forward to being a part and getting to know the congregation and being a part of the fellowship.
Well, thank you so much. We're looking forward to cranking that fellowship back up to full speed, at least, even in the narrow lane of some of the limitations we have. Well, have a safe trip, and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday. And to the Fairfax Church family, we want to welcome Andrew and his wife Lynn as a part of our church fellowship as God brings him to serve in this interim capacity. And we look forward to the days ahead. So that's it for this week's Midweek Minutes, and we hope to see you on Sunday. Join me and Andrew, whether it's there in the sanctuary at 11 o'clock or online. You know the drill. Go to our website, push that blue button, watch now, and join us live from home if that works best from you, wherever you are. So have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on Sunday.